EBI is back Sunday, June 2nd, live from Austin, Texas, and exclusively on UFC Fight Pass. EBI, the absolutes, don't miss it. We've been doing this for 10 years. EBI 6 was the first absolute show, and that's when Gordon Ryan arrived on the scene. He dominated that show. And then EBI 14 was the next absolute show, and again, Gordon Ryan proved why he's #1 in the world against Craig Jones in that final classic match. Craig Jones almost had Gordon Ryan in that armbar in OT. Gordon Ryan escapes by the skin of his teeth and comes back and finishes Craig Jones to get the absolute belt. And the last EBI Absolute show we did in the finals was superstar Nicky Rod from B Team against Kyle Bang from 10th Planet. That went into overtime with Nicky Rod getting the win and getting that absolute belt.
The EBI Absolute Champion, it is Nick Rodriguez.
Representing New Wave Jiu-Jitsu, the actual new wave of New Wave Jiu-Jitsu is Big Dan Manasui. This guy is a giant and he's got flawless technique. He's 300 pounds and has a great guard, insane leg locks, and coming from the New Wave camp, he's prepared for the OTs.
I've known Eddie for a while, and I'm in Austin. He's having the event in Austin. He wants the best guys. I'm one of the best guys. There we go. As a grappler, you have to be a fan of the EBI tournaments because it's the things which help shape Jiu-Jitsu. It's one of the most watched events in history, and it's how Gordon made his name. It's how Gary made his name. And whenever you're competing against somebody else, you obviously have to be able to impose your game in such a way where you feel like they're weak and you're strong. But it's not about how good they are, it's about how good you are. And if you can impose your will, that's what's going to get you to win in Jiu-Jitsu. Whatever struggles you're dealing with, just know that your opponents are dealing with those same struggles too. All of you guys are fighting the same amount of fighting as the other person is. So at the end of the day, the outcome isn't dictated when you step on the mats. The outcome is dictated in the months and years beforehand, in your training and your preparation. And when you step on the mats, that's when fate comes into play. The thing about somebody's style is that it's always going to be a combination of 3 things, whether you like it or not. And it's a combination of your physicality and body type, who your instructor is, and who you are as a person. So whoever you are as a person comes out in your jiu-jitsu. Who your instructor is influences how you do the movements that you do. And what your body is changes what you do. And when you put those 3 into a melting pot, that's what really makes jiu-jitsu, your jiu-jitsu, what it is. My jiu-jitsu is a combination of who I am, who my teacher is, and my body and my physicality. The team that I'm with, we've always been doing overtime rounds because it's one of the best ways to learn how to defend. Whether it's EBI or not, you want to be able to work out of these positions. I got the master of it all, Gary Tonin, the best OT round guy ever, teaching us every day. So I think it's a good thing. I think that it shows you how good somebody is in the moments that matter. It's probably going to be a lot easier for a lighter guy to escape an armbar than it is a bigger guy. But it's going to be a lot harder for a bigger guy to get his arms separated by a smaller guy. So it's all just pros and cons at the end of the day. I'm training every day with heavyweights, big guys, strong guys who just want to scrap, getting shark tanked every day. I don't think you guys are going to expect any less than 4 matches, 4 submissions. I have my gym, I have my instructor, I have the best people in the world, and I have the best technique in the world, and I have the best guys. So I'm not lacking at all in that department.
Also from New Wave Jiu-Jitsu, representing John Danaher, ADCC champion Giancarlo Bodoni. We saw him at EBI 20. Didn't quite get the results he was looking for, but since then, he took that ADCC belt and he's back with a vengeance, and he wants the EBI Absolute belt.
That last one that I did was one of the first kind of returning ones. I think it was away for a little bit and then came back, and it was, you know, a stacked bracket just like this one. You know, it has even more like high level accomplished athletes in it. You know, obviously I got injured in that first match. I won the first match, but I had to withdraw from the tournament. So obviously I want to have another chance at winning that title. I've done EBI rules several times, and even when I wasn't preparing for an EBI tournament, like obviously a bunch of my teammates have competed at the actual EBIs and or EBI rules tournaments. So there's always usually somebody at some point or another getting ready for like an EBI rules match. So we're always doing, you know, EBI overtime rounds. And so I'm pretty familiar with the rule set. And, you know, it's something that we train a lot. And obviously over the years, you know, especially with John and his students, like they kind of came up in that EBI style rule set. So it's pretty familiar to me, and it's something that we do train quite a bit. So the idea is to push the action the whole time. And so doesn't matter what position I'm in, if we're standing, if I'm on the ground, that's going to be my goal. So because of my last match, you know, I'm coming off of a full camp. So I'm in, you know, great shape physically. I feel like technically I'm better than I've ever been. Like I'm much better than I was in 2022. The last EBI, you know, I was coming out of ADCC, trying to, you know, rest my body after a hard camp, and then kind of swing my way back into, you know, this like momentum of being able to compete again at a high level, where now it's the opposite. Now I'm kind of like on this upward swing, you know, channeling everything towards ADCC. So I feel like I'm just coming into this tournament with a lot more momentum. I'm technically, physically better than I've ever been. And so I'm extremely confident for this coming weekend. And man, EBI has been around for a long time, and it's definitely it's always been a big and an important tournament. But I think with the rise of no-gi grappling in the last few years, it's going to be up there with, you know, some of the biggest ones. So I hope they keep putting them on. You know, obviously I hope they keep, you know, putting up good prize money and things like that. And yeah, I'm excited, man. It's a title that I don't have, so I want to add that to my resume.
It is Giancarlo Bodoni.
Two-time combat jiu-jitsu world champion Ryan Aitken steps up in attempt to get that EBI Absolute belt.
My name is Ryan Aitken. I'm the two-time combat jiu-jitsu middleweight champion of the world.
Representing 10th Planet Atlanta, it is Ryan Aitken.
I have a lot of experience in the EBI rule set when it comes to like overtime and stuff, because over the last 5 years that I've been focusing on no-gi, they didn't really do any like middleweight ones, so it was really just CJJ coming around, and so I had to get hit in the face.
Hard strike from Rayfield.
I mean, it's kind of in my blood now in my training, because man, points tournaments aren't really jiu-jitsu. It's actually more counter jiu-jitsu.
Look at that squeeze that Hunter's bringing up there.
You could like do counter jiu-jitsu for an entire regulation, but you're still going to be put in an almost finishing position, whether that be the arm bar or the back control for the choke. Is jiu-jitsu defined by double guard pulling and pushing out of bounds and trying to fake a submission on the yellow boundary, or is it defined by, you know, holding somebody and wrapping your arm around their neck and choking them, or trying to pull their arm off their body? And I feel like EBI has done a good job to represent jiu-jitsu in that aspect.
Back to the mat is Aitken. They call time.
It's been huge for me over the last 6 months to a year to work on developing my rear naked choke more and understanding the digging mechanics and stuff. Just like a heel hook, man. Like a lot of people think that heel hooks are so hard to get because they just can't catch them or they can't finish people, but really it's the digging mechanics. So same thing with the rear naked choke, you know, the same thing applies. EBI has exploited my weakness, you know, shown it to me, and now it was my choice to like work on it again, not just feel like because I've been training for 15 fucking years, you know, this year, that I don't need to work on the rear naked choke anymore.
Oh, he may have this one. Choke is Aitken. Oh, he got the taps.
I think that's one of the biggest problems, like why you might not see a lot of finishes with the big guys, is because they don't actually have to work through their finishing mechanics throughout the years. I'm expecting to finish people in regulation. Because also with the big guys, man, I feel like I'm going to be exhausted if I go all the way to OT. So I need to really focus on getting the finish early in regulation. Hitting powerful submissions, I know better than to just like go on some shitty little straight ankles on the big guys. No wrist locks. Little stuff like that's not going to work. So
he is now the new combat jiu-jitsu world middleweight champion.
This will be the biggest title of my career thus far, and to me, it's one of the A+ tournaments. I mean, this is the largest submission-only tournament you can do. So for me, I put it up there right next to ADCC, which is like the largest points tournament you can do. They're never easy. They're grinders. You know, it's different. It's not like points where you're trying to burst for like 5 minutes. You know, it's 10 minutes if you're against a really good guy going into OT, and then it'll be another 5 minutes or so, because it's just back and forth, and your forearms get worn out, your shoulders want to fall off the body, trying to choke them. You might be stuck in a fucking armbar and you gotta try to explode out of that. It's pretty crazy. I understand why a lot of people don't want to do it, and they make the excuse that, oh, well, why would I let the guy just start in this position? But really it's because you're terrified of letting a guy that's knowledgeable on your back or a guy that's knowledgeable in an armbar. So, I understand why they don't want to do it. But I think it comes out of fear, rather than, not worth their time or whatever.
Representing 10th Planet Salt Lake City, Amir Allam, who just won 10PQ, the 10th Planet qualifier. He's been with me from white to black. Now he's at 10th Planet Salt Lake City, running that school, training his ass off. He's in the best shape of his life, and he's in the twilight of his career, but he's gonna go out swinging with his boots on.
I'm Amir Allam, 3rd degree black belt, Ready Bravo. And I just won the 10P qualifier for the EBI Absolute. So I'm going to compete in Austin on June 2nd. Doesn't sound real, but sweet.
Amir Allam.
The last time I was at EBI was in 2016. EBI 6, it was Gordon Ryan's coming out party. I'm stoked to be going back, still competing at this level. I came out here to just see if I can still do this. I've been feeling really old, really unmotivated. I really expected to lose in the first round today. I didn't think I'd get past these young, hungry killers. And it's still a little surreal.
All right, let's hit it.
First match was against Isaiah from 10P Portland, coached by a good friend of mine, Phil Schwartz, longtime training partner. Phil knows my game inside out. Isaiah was very well prepared for it, passing to my weak side, passing as soon as I would flip the leg for rubber guard. And he was all over me. Much superior wrestler, 27 years old, very athletic, very strong. Took me down pretty much right away. And I was playing guard against him and just getting my guard passed over and over. I'd re-guard, he'd pass. Re-guard, he'd pass. At one point I shot a blast double on him, just to try to get some respect back. And eventually I just caught him hanging out of my guard and I threw up a triangle from guard. Again, I've never finished it before. When I was a purple belt, I used to tell myself, my legs are too short, I'll never be good at triangles, I'll never be able to do them. And yeah, I finished one today. And that was it.
Yeah.
Second match was against Travis from, I think he came from 10th Planet Decatur with Brandon McCatherine. Nasty. He was so precise with everything he did. He was tying up my arms from every position. Standing, he got a Russian 2-on-1. Foot swept me so hard I back rolled into the crowd. He was all over me. Again, passed my guard a couple of times and was just tying up my arms. S-mount, Kimura trap. He put me in a goddamn buggy choke at one point. And I'm actually not sure what happened. I think I escaped the buggy and then hit a duck under and just jumped on his back. And then I squeezed for dear fucking life. I just put all of my 250 pounds into the RNC, didn't get it, fished the other arm over, went belly down, and he tapped. I think I was crushing his face. And I'm glad he tapped, because I was gassed after that.
Tap! Winner by short choke.
And then Fedor. I faced Fyodor Nikolov, big Tempe prodigy. In a lot of ways, he's where I was a decade ago, with Eddie Bravo here at 10th Planet headquarters carrying the flag for rubber guard. He's generally nasty, but I knew to avoid his rubber guard, pass to his left side where he's not as good at the rubber guard. And he kept forcing Z guard, and I attacked leg locks on him. So I had 2 deep straight ankle attempts, and he fought out of them really well, but exhausted himself. So he really had to fight those straight ankle locks. So again, shout out to Jacob Couch, man. You fixed my straights. And then finally I pulled guard and attacked the straight from bottom. And I was very conscientious about not pulling with my back, but driving with my hips into the straight on that last one. And I think that was the difference. I was kind of finishing them wrong the first couple of times. And he tapped. So I made it. 3 tough matches.
Winner by ankle lock, Amir Allam.
Yeah, I'm just at this point, just so relieved that everything went well. Representing 10th Planet means everything to me. I mean, I would not be where I am at all without Eddie Bravo and without Jiu-Jitsu. I'd probably be dead or in jail. I would not have finished my degrees at all. And now I run my own Jiu-Jitsu dojo, and I pass that goodwill and that help forward to my students. It's amazing. So there's no organization in the world like 10th Planet, and there's nobody like Eddie Bravo. So I was stoked to win in front of my sensei, who I love dearly.
Representing Atos, he's a black belt under the legend Andre Galvao, Callan, Sabino. Callan is always down. He's done Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds twice, and he couldn't wait to get into the EBI Absolute bracket.
I never hesitate. When I was like sending Eddie a random message out of nowhere, he's like, yo, you want to do Absolute? I was like, I didn't ask any questions, like, yes, put me in there. Any of Eddie's tournaments, doesn't matter what belt, what guy, you already know that guy's getting picked for a reason, so everyone's dangerous. Been in 2 Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds. I believe that's a way tougher event to even be in, way tougher rule set. This is almost makes it feel a lot easier. I feel a lot more ready in this, but then again, this is the Absolute division, so 2 Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds. I'm feeling ready. I'm excited for the Absolute.
Hey, look at him pulling this rubber guard. The Atos product, going for the go-go plata. You can see he's an offensive machine.
The one thing about getting hit and being able to get knocked out, I feel like makes Combat Jiu-Jitsu a little bit more sketchy. I mean, for the bigger guy, you can't just lay on your back and play guard. What if it was an Absolute division with combat,
The blood flowing there on the face of Sabino, but he is offensive here.
EBI popped up. It was probably one of the first major sub-only tournaments that came out. There were a couple other ones, but that was definitely the biggest one, especially because of Gordon, winning it. I trained Jiu-Jitsu since I was like 10, 11 years old, and this was like, the highlight of my weekend when I was a Grom. I believe it still is one of the biggest sub-only shows, out there, so that was definitely one to watch. Who else? So was it Gary Tonin, Eddie Cummings? Those guys definitely switched up the game, especially the leg lock game, submitting guys quick. Most of the guys in my gym, I think I'm the one that's more down for this rule set. There are a lot of guys in the gym that are very good, but they're not a big fan of the sub-only rule set, especially the overtime. But I think it's brings more viewers to the sport. It's just more entertaining to watch, and nobody really wants to watch these 2-point really close matches, right? People want to see the finish. I believe my style out of anyone in my gym works good with the bigger guys. Position, right? They have a lot more leverage. So if they're going for leg locks, right? I think for the little guy, you just gotta kind of stay moving, trying to gas out the bigger guy or run it into overtime, right? Maybe that could be a good strategy for the little guy. But it's tough, bro. I believe the leg locks, or especially the defense on my side, I feel like it's one of the strongest positions I have. But then again, when you're going against a guy, really big guy, they wrap your leg. Sometimes the leg lock doesn't necessarily have to be in for them to, you know, create pressure. But I feel like my game for this rule set, especially with the leg locks, I feel like I should be. I kind of like it when guys go for my legs, honestly. So I'm not the biggest guy, but I'm definitely tall, so that the height will help in those leg exchanges, right? But yeah, the bigger guys, you know, once they wrap your leg, you even see a big Dan. A lot of times, will have the guy's foot. It's not necessarily all the way locked in, and he's still able to, you know, get the finish because, you know, just how heavy he is. But no, I'm looking forward for guys to go for my legs. I actually rather, you know, guys full guard and go for my legs, honestly. Like, I like the overtime because we need to see a finish, right? But I'm not a big fan of the guys that are going in there just to fight for the overtime, right? Just to last the 10 minutes and your strategies to win in overtime. I get that, right? You have to win your match, but I think to keep it entertaining for the people don't want to see one guy running away for 10 minutes, right? So, and I feel like the get down rule avoids that a little bit, because sometimes the guys can be, you know, maybe they're not even running, they're just two good guys in stand up and they're just 8 minutes standing. A lot of people don't want to see a match 8 minutes standing, right? It really depends on how the bracket's going to play out. I'm just going to switch up my style. I'm going to be just looking to finish, and I'm avoiding that overtime as much as possible. But, you know, if it goes there, we're ready. I'll be playing lots of rubber guard, definitely with the bigger guys. I think they'll help me more rubber guard, you know, into leg positionings, and yeah.
Also on the card from 10th Planet HQ, my personal project, Fedor Nikolov. He's been with me for about 3 years, moved here from Russia, and he's trains every day, sometimes 2 a days, doesn't miss any classes. He just soaks everything up, and you can tell by his game. His truck game, high level, his rubber guard game at the highest possible level. Keep an eye on Fedor.
Nikolov going inverted, trying to attack that right leg.
He's attacking it. Very aggressive attack. He got inverted quickly. And he's in a deep leg lace right here. Is he going to be able to isolate goal? He's going to get a hard.
There it is. It is done. Fyodor Nikolov via knee bar and doesn't even break a sweat.
Yeah, this guy is very scary.
It's definitely super cool to be invited. It was cool to get the message from Eddie because, you know, when it comes to sub only, there's nothing better than EBI rules, just because we can't be sitting there for 3 hours for one match. Like, we've tried it before because it's the gold standard. EBI is the way to go if you're going to do sub only, you know? So watching, obviously, Gary, Gordon, all those guys back in the day, I was 19, 10 years ago. So I remember watching the first EBIs and I was like, this is something I want to get on. And for me, I've coached a lot of guys who have gotten on to EBI, have done well at EBI, just because being a bigger guy myself, the Absolute comes around once every so often. The 205 division's not really there anymore. I never really had the opportunity to do it myself. So it's super cool to be able to do it, especially on the 10-year anniversary show. It's going to be cool to see the big guys, you know, back on here, the ones that maybe haven't had the opportunity to do it just because it hasn't happened as much for the Absolutes, you know? So 3 times in 10 years, you know, those opportunities are few and far between. So hopefully the rest of the guys bring it, you know, because I know there's always been kind of a, just this feeling of big guy jiu-jitsu is boring to watch, you know? So hopefully some of the other guys kind of come out and aren't afraid to play the bottom, play wherever they get put, you know? We've all been doing this long enough, you know, like whoever's in front of me, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try to break them off, you know? So I'm going to have Tito's beforehand, I'll have Tito's at the end. So one way or another, we're going to have a party and try to break some limbs. I've been doing EBI since 2016, at least the rules with my tournaments, been training them with my guys. So, you know, I got 8 years of EBI overtime experience, whereas a lot of these guys may not have that. I was in Craig Jones's corner at EBI 11 when Wagner rode him for 15 minutes, and they made the rule change because of that. So, like, it's something you got to understand, you know, and it's a game within a game. I'm just trying to fucking live a great life, you know. I'm trying to do things that are going to excite me, be cool stories to tell my kid, and this is definitely one of those things, you know, so I'm super excited about it.
Don't miss it. EBI 21, the Absolutes, live from Austin, Texas, and exclusively and only on UFC Fight Pass.